Hello to all my booty seekers and cheek chasers. This is the Carpe Natem Podcast. I'm your host, Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso, and I am so grateful you are listening to this episode. If you're new here, you should know that I believe that my purpose is to uplift, inspire, and educate others to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and others. I've spent years in the personal development and transformational technology space, and I want to share with you the wisdom that was passed down to me from giants in the industry. So if you are on a journey of self-mastery, just like me, looking to make dreams a reality and willing to be a leader for your family and community, then join me in seizing the butt cheeks of life and giving them a big old squeeze. Let's jump into the show. Welcome back to another episode. I am so excited for the guest we have on. I have with me Zachary Heidemann of Wild Child Medicines. This man is one of the most amazing human beings I have had the pleasure to talk to. He has backgrounds in healing, in sacred medicines, using plant medicines. This man has done a lot of pretty incredible stuff, and I'm very excited to share with you some of these adventures, or whatever we like to call them, these experiences that you've had. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If you guys can see me, I've got a great big smile on my face. I'm nodding right here. It's a wonderful intro. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, it's just like similar to you. I like to encourage everybody to communicate in a way that creates as we speak, right? That's an old Aramaic phrase, abracadabra. We create as we speak. And if we communicate effectively, we can create the life of our dreams, right? And that's something I actually think that you've embodied pretty well with your experience here in life and seizing life by the butt cheeks and having a beautiful life and with the happy wife, and hey, doing it, showing up, pursuing your passion with the podcast here, coaching, personal development. So nothing's off limits. Let's dive into the mentality of everything and how we can make the world a better place.
It's funny that we're starting off talking about like effective and clear communication, because even the intro itself had kind of us trying to figure out how exactly can I introduce you, because you're dabbling in so many different things. You're working with sacred medicine. Yep. You are holding ceremonies. Yep. You are doing retreats. Yep. You're doing mentorships. You're doing coaching. Yep. You are actively farming. You have so many things happening in your life. Yeah. How do you even introduce a man like that with so many fingers in different pots, simultaneously stirring them all at once? So when it comes to like effective communication, one thing that somebody should at least try and figure out is like, who am I? Yeah. At the very basic root of it, but that's such a loaded question. Right. Because we were having this conversation earlier. We were
talking about this earlier.
Where we had said that when you ask the question, who am I? It's almost like an ad lib.
Yes.
Where
it's a fill in the blank.
It's a fill in the blank.
Who am I? And that's the challenge, right? Is we can get lost or locked into a belief system that someone has passed to us, or we've inherited, or somehow or another it's been programmed into us, where we believe there is an actual right or wrong answer to that question, who am I? And in my experience, there is no right or wrong answer to who am I. There is only who am I. It's a fill in the blank with the who am I now, right? Because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing. And I really appreciate the reflection that you're giving back to me here and saying, okay, here's all the things that you do. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true, right? Like, I don't necessarily focus on them all at once, but they are all constant evolving cycles in my life that I spend time and energy focusing on. And that's where we create the goodness. That's where we get the magic, is being able to allow ourselves time and space to go into all of the different aspects of our being. So who am I today? Maybe I'm a coach today. Who am I tomorrow? Maybe I'm out in the garden farming, gathering wild ingredients. And then the next day I'm making medicines, and then maybe the next day I'm playing video games, maybe.
So what really prevents people from feeling like they have like a multiple personality disorder here? Because it really depends on the context of who is asking the question, when is it being asked. Someone saying like, who are you, could be such a loaded question for somebody. And depending on who asks me, what am I? Or like, what do you do? It's different than like, if you ask like, who am I? I'm like, well, my company, I'm a training specialist in I'm also a podcaster. Somebody would say an influencer. Yeah. Based off of just the ability to use social media to, influence or inspire or even manipulate. Okay, let's even use those words. Right? That could be all definitions of an influencer, but who and how, I guess how would one choose, the right title to call themselves? And where does one even begin to start with this question? Because I could just write down a list of who I am. A son. I am the son of Patricia. I am the son of Adauto. Like, I can write these things down and just kind of have a list of these things that I am. But what does that encompass? Is there a summary here?
So there is. All of those things, the summary would be with all of those things is that those are all things that we do. And ultimately, we are more than what we do. We're more than the sum of all of our parts. At the heart of that question, who am I? The answer for everybody, at least in my experience so far, is you are an infinite, indestructible being. You're omnipotent. You have a soul that can never be killed. It can continue to create and come back infinitely. And you can make anything mean anything. Life is inherently meaningless save for your ability to give it meaning. So who you are is the great creator. You are the creator of your life. You are the teller of your story. And you are the one that lives and experiences that story. You're the main character, but you're also the bum that you meet on the street. You're also everybody else in the world. They're all reflections of who you are. You being the great creator, the light, the storyteller. So it's an invitation to come back to that feeling at the heart of why do I create? Which for me is connection, is love, is happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction. I think we find when we let go of the stories that we're telling, most of the time we're all seeking that same feeling.
How I interpret what you just said, and it's a lot, it's a very packed way of looking, but I understand a lot of what you're saying, and let me see if this understanding makes sense.
Yes, let's land.
So the first thing you said is that we are the spirit.
Yes.
And this is where we're probably going to lose like a good chunk of audience members. For those of you unaware of this thing, we're not in any way trying to convert you into anything. Yes.
Actually, I don't really necessarily believe in religion. I'm not necessarily against it.
But there is a spirit world.
Exactly.
And that is something that I've believed in since I was a child. And maybe it is my Hispanic background or my Catholic upbringing, whatever it may be. I believe that there is a spirit world. Yeah. And what I've noticed across multiple facets of life and different industries is all their top performers also believe in some sort of like spirituality, some sort of like thinking of not just the logical, what we can see with our eyes, but the spiritual realm.
Right.
And what I personally believe is like, what is God? It's just instantaneous manifestation.
Yes.
Where you can instantly create something in real time, almost like a matrix, right?
Exactly.
And as mini creators,
right? Which
since we all are, like there's God in all of us.
Yes.
Call it God, call it universe, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Whatever name
helps you get to. If I say rhino, you picture a rhino in your head. If I say God, you can replace the word with Mother Nature, Mother Source, Universe. Right. We're talking about the same thing here. As us all being a spirit and being part of God and God's creations, or a spirit that can create.
Right.
when we communicate to the world what we want, it communicates back and delivers. It's a conversation. It's an ebb and flow.
Yes.
So as a spirit, we have the ability to connect and create with the environment that we have around.
Yes.
However, it's not instantaneously.
Right.
It's the closest thing we can get to that is like a billionaire is able to buy almost anything in this world except time. He can't create more time, right? That's where the limitation is.
Yep.
But for most, if I want a car, even if it's a luxury car, there is a pathway to get it. How fast it takes me to get there really depends on where I'm at, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and then spiritually.
Right.
Because that's what I'm aligning to. This is what I want to create in my life.
Right.
Okay. Even though it's materialistic,
yeah,
it's an end goal.
And
how do we
talking about the thermostat earlier?
Right. We were talking about the financial thermostat.
Thermostat.
We'll talk about that.
That's like your spiritual thermostat.
Okay.
Basically, your financial thermostat. One of the ways to move that could be your spiritual thermostat. Whatever. That energy is for you, right? I don't want to limit it to a religion because that's kind of like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit.
Right.
So it's
real fast. Let me catch us. Let me explain what a quick financial thermostat is for those who don't, and then let's jump into the spiritual thermostat because that was fantastic.
Yeah. You guys got to know this.
So a financial thermostat, as I've been taught, is similar to a regular thermostat. If a thermostat is set to 72, if it gets too cold, the heater kicks in and raises the temperature. If it gets too hot, the AC comes on and cools the temperature. It always goes back to 72. For people, you can actually see that some of this, actually everyone has a set financial thermostat where if you are set to $40,000 a year, you will only gain $40,000 a year. It doesn't matter if you win the lotto or, get a gambling on cryptocurrency and you hit big, you get $1 billion, you go back to 40,000 real fast because you don't know how to maintain the money.
I've seen it.
When it comes to businesses and people who are entrepreneurial, they have to grow emotionally and spiritually and mentally in all these areas so that they can hold on to the money that they earn and raise their financial thermostat. Financial thermostats work both ways, where if you are somebody who is in the ultra wealthy, no matter how many times they go bankrupt, no matter how many losses and setbacks they have, they constantly go back to being in the ultra wealthy. Mm-hmm. So when you said that people have a spiritual thermostat that's set low, causing other things in their whole life to not be where they want it to be. They can't be raised up higher. Yeah. Elaborate more on that, because that when you said that, I was like, whoa.
Right. So these two things, they're separate thermostats, but they have a similar resonance, a similar frequency or manner of operation. That's what I really realized in our conversation at dinner earlier tonight. It's a feeling, And if you get used to being in the spirit of disappointment, then that's more of what you're going to attract. And a lot of what we're conditioned with in society is the spirit of fear and the spirit of lack, right? And we know what that feels like. When I explain to you the word fear, everybody knows what that feeling is, and it's a certain resonance, right? So if our fear thermostat or our spiritual thermostat is set to fear, we're going to experience that a lot more. And bringing it back to personal growth, that's where the opportunity or the invitation is to set that spiritual thermostat to feelings that we prefer. Like, hey, love, gratitude, reverence. It's the most amazing thing to be alive today,
So for the cynical in me, and for the listener that also has these feelings, because this is very common.
This is me.
You can't be happy all the time, bro.
That's true.
You can't be, I'm just going to be not sad. I wish I could. So it's not what you're saying.
Right.
A lot of people like interpreting these things.
Fair enough.
Like that. Point. They think that it's just all black and white. If I think I'm not happy or I think I am happy, then all of a sudden I'm happy. It's not that.
No. Not at all.
And we talked about sitting with
uncomfortable feelings
and building a tolerance
right
to
so
this.
So hopefully we still have some cynicals around, because I love you guys and you're amazing and beautiful, and I hope I really appreciate you guys listening to us. So at this point, if we think about a conscious bro, okay? Think about a conscious bro and holding space, right? That's a word many of you maybe have heard before, and you're like, what the fuck is even holding space? What is that? What does that even mean? This dude's just trying to get laid. Why does he keep getting laid by all of these women? Like, holding space, what is it? What is it? Okay? And I can tell you that holding space simply means allowing ourselves to feel our emotions without reacting to them, without having to fix them, without needing them to go away or be changed. It's simply being able to sit with what's uncomfortable and allow it to pass.
And this is something I struggle with personally. And this was something that I'm in therapy. I actively do therapy. I think it's amazing it works for some people. It happens to work with me. I resonate a lot with mine. Yeah. And I'm able to talk things out with her. I think it's beneficial. So I go.
You go.
One of the things that she told me was that I have, and she's totally right, that I have a lot of avoidance behaviors. And when it comes to dealing with emotions like anxiety and feeling stressed or feeling very anxious, I tend to either distract myself until the feeling passes, or if I do sit with the feeling, it just feels like I'm sitting with maniacal thoughts that are never ending. It's torturous. And for anybody who has similar thought patterns where they're very intrusive, they're very disruptive, and it just feels like it's
very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. So I was asking you, what do I do in these scenarios? And you had mentioned that this is where things like breath work.
Yes.
And
paying attention to your breath.
And you mentioned something else. You said breath work and then some other exercises.
Yeah.
To kind of get through these uncomfortable feelings. So let's say I'm having a panic attack. I'm stressing out at work. There's deadlines are due. I'm feeling very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's my turn to sit with the emotion.
Right.
From here, what do I do?
Perfect. Yeah. Say you are on a deadline. You got a shitty boss, and they're being an asshole about a deadline and putting it all on your plate. I've been there. I totally have been there. That's going to feel really uncomfortable. The story is going to be uncomfortable. We don't have a lot of time. You have to do all of this work. There's all this pressure. The first thing that's going to happen when you run through those storylines in your mind, them being true from your experience, is it's going to kick in your cortisol. It's going to kick in your stress hormones. Your body is automatically going to respond to it the same way that our body has responded for the past millennia, going back to when we were being chased by saber-toothed tigers and shit. You think you're going to die. So your body's going to start doing a death response. So what is it going to do? It's going to start messing with your breath. You're either going to start breathing fast and shallow, or you're going to start holding your breath. There's going to be some kind of response to the stress in your breath. So number one, if you can go, okay, what was it? Bad Boys woo-saw? Like if you can woo-saw a little bit, if you can actually take in some deep breaths and let them out a little bit, that will help you regulate your nervous system. And when you can regulate your nervous system, you can get back in control of the story, which controls all the feelings, which is what it's all about.
So when it comes to breathing, I can actually give some examples of things to look up to help with breathing. Wim Hof is actually a very popular breathing exercise. It's not for everyone. It's very intense. But his style of breathing definitely aims at the goal of taking control of your nervous system so that way you can regulate yourself better biologically.
Yep.
Awesome. Not for beginners, but there's ways to dip your feet into it. Wim Hof, check him out.
Yeah.
WIMHOFF. Then there's the breathing that I was taught where it's like count from 10 backwards and breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth. They say that that's a really good way of like getting a lot of oxygen into the body, but then at the same time releasing a lot of carbon dioxide is in through the nose, out through the mouth. That's a good regulatory way of getting that under control. A breathing exercise or a counting system is like 1, 2, 3, 4 in, then you hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you let go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think you stay without any breath 1, 2, 3, 4, and then bring in. Then it cycles, and there's several variations of this, different timings. Sometimes breathing in for 6, blowing out for 10, like stuff like that. Figure something out. But if you've never had any experience with breath work, this is a good start. Okay, so we got the breath work down.
Yeah.
I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling upset.
Yep.
Let's say I'm also angry.
Yep.
Okay, I know consciously that I'm not going to drive into my car and go run over puppies.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm not going to act upon those impulses. Some people do. Right. For some reason, punching a hole through the wall was way more common than in my household. I never punched a hole through a wall.
Right.
But some
houses have many holes in the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling these feelings of anger. I'm trying to get my breath under control. What am I doing with my hands? What am I doing with my body?
Yeah. So that I tend to find that those things will come to you naturally. It's most important thing is to just relax and breathe as much as you can. Come back to just breathing. There's always going to be all this other stuff running off in your head. You need to pay attention to this. You need to pay attention to that. So if you think about how much you need food, you have to eat every day, right? Like otherwise you're not going to be doing so well. I mean, you can survive a few days, right? But eventually you're going to die if you don't have the food.
Sure.
So just as much as you don't have food, if you don't have water, you're going to die even quicker, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can go maybe a day or so without water, but then you're really going to be sick. But so that's obviously really important, and staying hydrated is important. Well, I'd say probably about 500 times more than you need water, you need breath, right? If you don't have air for about 60 seconds, you're going to shut down.
I wouldn't say it's 60 seconds. Let's go 3 minutes.
Right,
like
exactly.
The brain starts shutting down. Because I can hold my breath for like a good 90.
Exactly. I mean being completely meaning not including your voluntary breath. Like if you actually stop breathing till your breath was done.
Say you're underwater with no breath. Exactly. You have about 60 to 90 seconds before you go black.
Yeah. Or if you're choking out on some food or something like that. When
emergency
services has to get to you, for every 60 seconds that you don't have air, you potentially lose 10% of your brain function.
You know, funny that you mentioned this. I've actually been reading about studies that show when you're looking at a screen, especially when you're reading. So the difference between reading a book in a book form and reading like on a Kindle or an iPad is that they're noticing less retention with the screens because we tend to hold our breath when we look at screens. So we're not breathing as regularly as if we were, doing our day-to-day. There's actually a proven study that shows that people have email apnea, where people actually hold their breath while reading emails. And this is a thing that's been proven and studied.
Yeah.
But they're now showing that happens as well as in books. It doesn't seem like it's just emails. Yeah. It's screens where it deregularizes our
nervous system
and our breathing.
Exactly.
Sorry, I choked on my spit, y'all. We got some cotton mouth in here.
That's it.
And these are some beautiful thoughts.
Some sacred plant medicines involved.
Which is the next topic I want to jump into.
Yeah.
Is how you got into that. And
So, that basically goes along the lines of that's kind of always been a medicine that worked for me. Sitting with these uncomfortable feelings, how do you do that? They're overwhelming. They're really powerful. And especially when I was in my younger days and my hormones and just, not having the emotional tools to process these things.
Same here, man. I was very into self-harming.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because if I would have gave that much attention to something less destructive, like a push-up,
Yeah.
I would have been jacked, son.
Yeah.
Would have been huge. But instead, I chose to, self-mutilate.
Right. Channel it into less.
I didn't have the tools, like you said.
Exactly. And it comes down to this is one of the things that I learned from cannabis. It's a medicine of abundance, and what I really learned is that we call this inquiry now. You've had the experience in Miracle Makers, right? Like, it's all about what you look at things. Okay, literally everything in reality. I don't want to burn anybody out here. Just stick with me through this, okay? Everything in reality is actually inherently meaningless until you give it a meaning.
100%.
The meaning comes from your story, and then that meaning and story has a feeling.
Highly recommend Man's Search of Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's about a man who was in the internment camps during World War II, and he said that the one thing they couldn't take from him was his reality of the world, how he chose to react to the things that were happening to him. It's the idea that things don't happen to you. It's the thing that things happen for you.
100%. 100%. But that's easier to hear or for us to say to each other now that we've understood it, right? Like, at first, if you had told me that, I would have been like, what the fuck? There's no way that's true. But it actually is the case. So, giving meaning to everything is what creates our feeling, and then those emotions become our experience and our reality. Cannabis and sacred plant medicines like that held space for me as a human to figure out how to sit with these really uncomfortable feelings that I was trying to avoid. And that's where I came up and got connected with inquiry, the process of inquiry or miracle making or whatever you want to call it, which is questioning your thoughts. Simply like, oh, this is a shitty day. Is that true? Like, is it really a shitty day?
Yeah, the inquiry that you are talking about is something I believe that was created by Byron Katie.
So Byron Katie will tell this herself. She is just the latest iteration of it. This type of inquiry goes back through all the sages. Again, not being religious, but this kind of inquiry goes back to like the Buddha and Jesus and all these different prophets and these enlightened people. And Byron Katie just happens to have the most modern, easy to understand version, which is just a couple of questions, And
they're solid questions.
They
are the simplest questions.
Yep.
First of them just being like, is it true?
Is it true?
And that could be the first question. So when you say like, this sucks, this day sucks.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is it true? Does it suck?
Right.
Right? Like, and then, you could be like, yeah, it does suck. Well, why does it suck?
Right.
And then you're like, well, it sucked because I had a bad day. Well, is that true? Did you really have a bad day?
Right.
Like, what made it? Was the whole day bad, or was it just one little part?
Yeah.
And then like the more you chunk down,
Yep.
it becomes like, well, it's not really that bad of a day. Like,
right.
But
see how that is a completely different story. And that feels totally different, right? It's
than the initial, today
it's just
sucked.
a shitty day.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That story feels bad versus, okay, well, there was some shitty stuff that happened today. Overall, it was a good day. That's what the power of inquiry is. And that's where the plant medicines have really helped me in the sense that I don't necessarily want to do that. It doesn't seem advertising, especially when I'm enraptured in those stories, and I am having a bad day and I am believing it's a shitty day. But then that's where a skillful relationship to plant medicine can come in, and I can actually have fun asking these questions and looking at the ways that I'm telling the stories and kind of peer beyond, like the limitation of it, or look beyond the matrix, if you will. So we have a society that loves the matrix, right? The matrix is believing your thoughts without questioning them and feeling the feelings that you don't prefer. Okay. The taking the pill the glitch in the matrix, the breaking free of the matrix, is asking these questions.
Yeah, that's what causes the glitches.
Yes.
It's once you have the awareness and
Yeah.
you know that everything is code, then you can never unsee it.
Yes.
Unless you choose to be blissfully ignorant, but
Right.
at that point,
Right. At that point, you're going against your own current, and you're like, why am I even doing this? But if you're having fun, it's okay.
So when it comes to plant medicine, it's been around for years. It's been used ceremoniously, but what we have nowadays becomes a whole different ballpark, because we say plant medicine, and that could be a variety of things. There is
Yeah.
no singular definition for that.
No.
And when it comes to what is available, I mean, even our manufactured drugs come from plant-based things.
Exactly.
Sometimes, like aspirin, I think is taken from a tree.
White willow bark.
Yeah, white willow bark. So shit like that
Yep.
has been around for centuries. No one's denying that.
Yep.
But the people who used cacao, is it cacao?
Yeah.
Coca leaves.
Yep.
So the people who used the cocaine,
coca leaves.
coca
Yep,
leaves,
yep.
the leaves that make cocaine,
Yes.
use them much different than
Right.
I did 3 years ago.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
So
The process.
the process
The
of
process,
it, it's because
it's an industrial process is what makes pharmaceuticals. It's what makes street drugs. It's an industrial processing of the plant.
but then there's those things like even marijuana.
Right.
So like we're saying that there is, I totally 100% believe that marijuana has the capability to heal and help in a multitude of different things,
Scientifically
right?
proven.
Scientifically proven,
Yep.
but for whatever reason, FDA
Spiritually
denied.
proven.
Spiritually proven,
Yep.
whatever. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not.
No.
Right?
For
There's
sure.
people who have
Is
terrible
it a
reactions to
cure-all?
it.
No way.
There's over serving yourself.
Yep.
You know, I've overdosed off of
Yep.
off
too.
of cookie.
Yep.
I think I ate like 1,000 milligrams,
Throw up. Spin
and I
out,
got
bad-
taken to the
bad
hospital.
trip.
I
Yep.
got
Not good. Not
the,
good.
the EMT that took me to the hospital said that if my blood pressure would have dropped 10 more points, my heart would have stopped.
Yep.
Right. And it wasn't the cannabis that killed me. It was just
No.
like my body reacting to
Right.
it. So, right. So,
Right.
again, these things have been used for centuries, and no
Yeah.
one's denying that. However, as the way they are now, even if you do get it from a club, let's say, and it is clean and
Okay.
it's gone through whatever it needs to go through,
Yeah.
there's potential for abuse, and like it almost feels like the potency is so high.
Yeah.
Because there's times where I get barbecued,
Yeah,
and I don't
it's
want to be
crazy.
barbecued.
No.
So there's ways of lessening that. Smoke less, or cut with CBD.
Yeah.
That usually balances it out.
Definitely.
So I guess the thing I'm really trying to get to here is that there's so much abuse that's easy to get into when
Yeah.
it comes to plant medicines, and
Yeah.
although I believe in them,
Yep.
some may be hesitant to it,
Yep.
and they might not be pro pharma, but and I'm full disclosure, like I am pro pharma in the sense that I do think that these medicines do amazing things for people in
Yes.
like dire situations. We have advances in technology that really do help people
Yep.
that used to eliminate and eradicate whole civilizations. So that we have made it's with like the pharmaceutical industry, the pushing of
Yeah.
drugs, the paying of physicians, the inequality to get
Coming up
decent
with their own
healthcare.
studies.
All that stuff is different than pharmacology and medicine. Do I think medicine is fucking valid? Yeah.
Yep.
Does everybody need to be on Adderall? Absolutely not.
No.
Does everybody
Definitely
need to be on pot? Either no.
No.
But there's a combination of it, and you
Right.
seem to. So I guess when it comes to like the likelihood of it being abused, I feel like we kind of gotten off track of it being more ceremonious, and now it's more
Yes.
recreational, even though
Right.
it does come with benefits.
Right. So I think I really like where you're going here, and what this comes down to for me is what I call a skillful relationship. A skillful relationship is about, okay, how am I relating to this? And is it enhancing my quality of life? Is it allowing me to do better in the world? Is it allowing me to be a better person? Is it giving me permission to be more of who I want to be? Or is it detrimental to my experience, to my
Great
growth?
context.
Right. So that's a skillful relationship. A skillful relationship would be always giving you permission and supporting you to be more of yourself. And if
Or to be more of your highest self, should I say?
Exactly.
Because now that you've made this definition of skillful relationship,
Yeah.
it's now made the connection of why things like alcohol and cocaine were not a skillful relationship. It was
Right.
never, it was removing problems in the now
Right.
because it was able to, again, avoid these
Yeah.
uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
But in the long term, it never did anything to improve, help, or aid. It only made things worse in the long run.
Yes.
While cannabis, I've had like an opposite effect where if I am furious, right, at something, whatever happens, some injustice I feel, I just feel like the world is wrong to me. After ceremoniously ingesting my
Yeah.
plant medicine,
Yeah.
I feel way less angry.
Right.
And I can maybe kind of come at them like, you know what, they actually do have a point, or you know
Right.
what, I am at fault at there. And
Exactly.
and maybe it's my building blocks. It's the way I'm set up where that works with me. It's
Right.
the puzzle piece that fits my puzzle.
Right.
But does it fit everybody's? No.
No. Yeah, and there's no universal answer. And that's why it's important that we don't approach it in that sense, other than to say, there's no universal. The universal answer is there's no universal answer. There's a unique answer for everyone.
But the wisdom is to have the awareness of effective usage. You said it's effective.
Yes. So, yeah, you want to make sure basically minimum effective dosing, which is you only need as much as you need. You never want to go into excess. And you always have abundance. And you want it to just help give you permission to be your best self. You want it to actually, okay, is this helping me? And you just have to be really honest, you know? Like if you're like, okay, yeah, it's helping me right now to deal with this situation where the emotions are overwhelming, great, you know? Versus if you're like taking a drink at first thing in the morning, like just to get through the day, it's probably not helping.
God, that made me remember about, I was working at a bank and we had to open it and it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Because we had to be there early for some reason. And this homeless man who I've seen come in and out of the bank, he killed an entire bottle of vodka. It was like one of those.
Wow. Those little 20 ounces.
Little
or whatever.
20 ounces. He was laying on the
Slugged
bench
it.
and then he just cocked his head back and was just, and to live life like that, like your existence in reality must suck so hard.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for him. I didn't feel
Yeah.
good watching that. I felt
Yeah.
very sad. I felt for him
Yeah.
that he has to escape like that. When you say that we have to allow ourselves to be our best self, or allow them to give us permission to be our best selves,
Yeah.
like, yes, the medicine, maybe smoking does help calm your nerves.
Right.
But if you then immediately sit down and waste 3-4 hours playing video
Right.
games
Yes,
instead of going to the
exactly.
gym, now
Yeah.
we're in a place of excess. This is now when
Exactly.
we've now abused it rather than, because I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking. I personally don't like it. The negative effect on my physical body, I can feel when alcohol is in my system. It's gross.
Right.
But for some people, that's their thing.
Yeah.
If that's your thing and you enjoy it responsibly, kudos.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll have a drink, but it's not my favorite.
When you smoke, and yes, maybe it helps alleviate whatever you're feeling and makes you less angry, what then do you do with that time and energy after you smoke really then reflects on whether the
Yes.
relationship is effective.
Yes. Yeah, that's super important. And this is where, again, honesty and integrity are important because, hey, in a skillful relationship, this is going to make me better. So, okay, cool. I got out of the angry feelings. I processed those uncomfortable feelings that I didn't want to deal with. I skillfully worked things out with wherever the tension was. Now, what am I going to do? Who do I want to be? Like, it's okay to relax sometimes, too, because you're totally going to receive information or think of ideas. But then the next step becomes putting that into action. Write those ideas down. Act on that podcast idea. Like, whatever genius dreamings that you came up with while you were relaxing, be sure to actually put them into action. That's the next step. that builds the better world for you and your friends and your family, community, for everybody. And it's literally a rinse and repeat, the same thing that everybody's been doing the whole time.
And that's just entry level. We're talking about like cannabis. I remember my first time actually smoking it was 14. I smoked it with, he was like an older brother. He was the son of the man that my mom was dating, but he was about 2 years older than me, and we were in high school. So we were, before I went into high school, I was like in 8th grade. He was in high school, captain of the football team, amazing human being. Love that dude. He offered to smoke with me for the first time because I actually had a corn pipe. You know those pipes that the old God. Popeye ones, the tobacco ones?
Corn cob pipes.
So I had one of those that I got at a flea market because I wanted to blow bubbles out of it. Like, right? And they saw that I had that pipe. He saw that I had that, and he knew where to get some. Wow. So he was like, if you let us use it, we'll let you come smoke with us. And I thought to myself, it's better that I do it with him than a stranger or a group of friends in high school. I might as well go into high school knowing what's the big deal, right? Smoked, nothing happened. We had a good time, but I think it was just because I was with these older boys and we were with his cousin, and it was really fun. The first time I got high was, I think, 16, maybe 15, 16. Walked home, and I was kind of walking serpentine, and I was like, oh, this is high. And then ever since then, I was able to hit it. And then I knew what that level was. And I've overserved myself. And I definitely know when stuff sucks. Right?
Yep. Totally.
It's just really, really funny. I just think about like the childhood that I had was like, I experienced it. So maybe some people go their whole. My dad's never smoked because he was so scared of my grandfather finding out, and then he got a job where they pee test him. Wow! So then he's so for years he was so against it. That's just for losers. And then Michael Phelps won like 13 Olympic gold medals, the reigning champ.
I swam against Michael Phelps.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How?
So in my one of my many lifetimes, in this lifetime, I was a professional swimmer in the Central Maryland Swim League.
Were you really?
Which is where Michael Phelps also practiced and participated. And we would have a annual, once a year, we'd have a summer thing at Padonia. And there at Padonia, I was fast enough in butterfly to swim against him. He came in, intentionally false started, and threw everybody off. Came out, and then he finished both laps before most of us were at the turn for the first lap.
That's so insane.
It's crazy.
That's so insane.
Yeah. And I mean, even at that time, he would smoke. That was like one of the areas where we could connect on. Is just
did you smoke with Michael Phelps?
So, I'm sure that we did at some point. Yeah, it's there's not a lot of smokers, swimmers. So.
Look, there's that's freak. I know there's not, but that's awesome that he does that. Plus, there's studies that show that instead of constricting your lung vessels,
it helps.
Like nicotine and tobacco. It actually expands it, so it's like for better breath retention, which seems counterintuitive because you're inhaling smoke.
Right. But in balance, all things in harmony.
I don't know. Then this goes back to your point of like nothing has meaning except the meaning that I give it. And the fact that you smoked with Michael Phelps to me is like, what? That's like such a trophy. That's like saying I smoked with Snoop Dogg. There's like 10 people in this world that you can be like, I smoked with this person, and it's almost like you smoked with like a marijuana god on earth, like a Herculean person. That's like Snoop Dogg. That's Michael Phelps. I'm putting him in there. Cheech and Chong. That's number 3 together as a pair. Tommy Chong's fine by himself. But like, it's to me that's like it's weed royalty. But that's the meaning that I gave it. To somebody else, they're gonna be like, Nate's a goddamn loser for thinking that.
Who is this guy talking about? Yeah.
If you don't know who Michael Phelps is, bro, you need to Google search that right now. This man won more Olympic medals than any human in history. And he just wears them like he wears all 26 of them. He has so many medals. And like he smoked pot, and people were like up in arms about it because they caught him smoking taking a bong rip at a party or something. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing it for years. Like he was just not even hiding it. And then there was all these memes where it says, like it was a picture of him, and it said, "Winners don't smoke weed, champions do." And I just loved it. But does every champion smoke weed? No. Does every loser smoke weed? No. But it really depends on not
your relationship to it.
Exactly.
Right. So like he's
drinking, same thing.
He's going to follow through. He's going to stay committed. He's still going to swim his laps. He's still going to show up. He's still going to do all the things that he needs to do. And that's the important thing to look at in your relationship to not just plant medicines, but to any substance. Could be sugar, which is a plant medicine, by the way. It could be the things that you eat. It could be
coffee.
Whatever.
Is actually a plant medicine.
Exactly.
A lot of people treat it like a ceremony to prepare and brew their coffee, like the real coffee heads. Yeah. The nerds.
Yeah. Their ritual morning coffee, you know?
And it's a big deal to them, but they again, that's assigned meaning. Yep. And that is plant medicine. They're actually interacting with an environment and something that they ingest and put into themselves. Like, I actually thought it was really nice because something that like obviously no listener knows, but my wife and I cheers at every meal. Every time we get anything, we cheers. We always cheers the food together.
We did.
She taught me that.
It was super cool.
And we cheersed at at
Flower Child.
Flower Child's a delicious place in Austin. Go to Flower Child.
Yeah, check it out.
So good.
Free plug.
Free plug. Just if you're really good, you don't word of mouth and Flower Child.
That's it. It was legit. We had a great dinner.
So we cheersed.
Yeah.
And
cool.
then you prayed.
Yes.
And then we decided to join you in the prayer. And it wasn't like, Domine gracia, Padre. It wasn't like none of that.
We shut the whole place down. Everybody got on their knees. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. It's go to Flower Child where rituals happen. No, you kind of put your hands over your food, and I really liked what you said. You're like, I'm calling upon any deity just to say thank you. I'm so happy that, and I'm hoping that this food allows me to then go create a wonderful, better world for others. I don't remember your prayer exactly, but I was like, wow, these are really insightful. And do you do this every meal?
Yeah.
Same prayer?
Pretty much.
Or are you riffing?
So I change it a little bit, but basically the gist of the prayer is this. I think about, I want every being that has given its life energy in part or in whole to make that meal get to my plate. I want to say thank you to them, right? Like the plants that I'm eating on the plate. I want to say thank you to them. The animals that I'm eating on my plate, I want to say thank you to them. The people that served it or cooked the food, I want to say thank you to them. The people that delivered the food to them, I want to say thank you to them. The people that grew and raised the food, I want to say thank you to them. The earth that supports them, and on, everybody that made that whole transaction possible. I just want to take a minute to connect to that whole line and be like, hey, for real, thank you, because I'm fucking hungry. Okay, for real, I'm hungry. And number two, I'm about to not be hungry no more. So that feels really good. And because this is all possible because of you, all of you guys that gave your life energy. So I just want to invite you in to that connection, to that good feeling. I want you to know this is what you paid forward. I want you to experience that. And then from that, like, I know I'm going to get nourished. I know I'm going to feel good. I'm going to be excited. So then I'm like, okay, well, now that we're all connected, help guide me to build a better world. Help guide me to pursue my passion. Help guide me to be happy and have a good life and bring that into as many more future moments and people and situations as possible so we can have more good meals like that.
As like spiritually beautiful as that is, it also comes off as incredibly daunting because you're just thanked everything that ever existed for the meal that you're going to receive so that your body may continue to spread love and joy. And you're just doing this in a quick minute prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't hold hands. We didn't do anything.
No.
Still following COVID protocols.
Yeah.
So but the intention is there. And I feel like if you do something like this, where you set a small intention, whatever it may be, the small habit, like the cheers that my wife and I have for everything, right? If we pick 2 grapes, we cheers the grapes, and then we eat. Right?
Right.
It's this form of unity. It's a
Right.
bond.
Yeah.
It's a special thing
Yeah.
that's so small and insignificant. It does not even take up more than a calorie of my
Right.
energy. Right.
Right.
But the meaning that is given to it and what it represents is, insurmountable.
Right.
Where
It's
yours,
a moment of gratitude. It's a
huge
same
moment
thing.
of gratitude. It's
that
not even just like,
plain.
and if it helps you to thank God for it too, go
Yeah,
for it.
exactly.
But it's not the point.
Don't be limited by that.
Don't be limited by
Don't
it.
be limited by God.
Don't be limited by God.
Just be grateful
for
like,
everything,
what feels
that ever
good.
exists.
Yeah, and when you guys did the Cheers Bowl, like just like right now, if you guys are even tuning in a little bit, you can feel it. You can, maybe your hairs are standing up, or there's some little wing going in the back, your cerebellum slobbering. Like you can feel what I'm saying. It's exciting. It feels good. It feels good when you're grateful for something. That feels good. Just in and of itself, to be grateful, to be like, yes, this moment, cheers, fuck yeah, we did it, we made it, we're here, and we're enjoying it. That's what it's all about, right? Just more of that. So anything you can do to bring those moments more into reality.
And if it sounds corny and woo-woo for all those cynicals listening, try it. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose, bro?
Right, just your cynical story, just to stick up your butt. And I've been there, okay? I was angry, was upset, was cynical, was always looking for the fall down. I never would have listened to a conscious bro talking to me from Austin, Texas, But the reality is, it's what you make things mean. And right now, if you're cynical, you are following along with the story that other people want you to follow along with.
And you're accepting your thoughts without question.
Exactly.
I like how you tied that in and said that's one of the true matrices, is that you are accepting the thoughts that you have, whether they be intrusive or not,
right,
and not even questioning their validity or whether or not they're correct.
Yep. You better start questioning those thoughts, and you better start building your own dreams, because if you don't question your thoughts, somebody else will. And if you don't build your dreams, somebody else will hire you to work on theirs.
Yeah.
And you'll be asking questions for them instead of asking questions for yourself and your people that you love and that you care about. And the more you get into this process, the more you find that the right people are always in front of you to reflect to you or help you ask the questions, the hard things, the uncomfortable feelings. The people that trigger you the most are actually some of the most valuable people, or the people that you're most cynical about. You're like, I fucking hate this guy, or I hate this lady. Like, those are your golden nugget opportunities to find out where you are believing a meaning, whether you created it or whether your mom gave it to you, your dad gave it to you, or society gave it to you. Whatever it is, it's making you uncomfortable. And the easiest way I can explain that to people is with racism. If you are racist, you are uncomfortable. It has nothing to do with reality or the other person. Mm-hmm. It is literally a story that you have made that is closing your heart. And again, maybe you didn't make it, somebody else made it and gave it to you, and it was passed to you from your family. But it is your responsibility, absolutely every single one of us, to question that story, because when I believe that story, it makes me feel really freaking uncomfortable. I don't want to be that person. And it's a bunch of bullshit. It's not really true. And when I see that we're all equal and everybody's okay, and I don't believe things like this one's better than that one, I feel a lot better.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I think I can kind of tie this back into the whole communicating with yourself as well as like the environment around you. Yeah. When it comes to something like racism, a lot of it is rooted in, like, racism is taught.
Right.
For example, it's learned. It's learned.
Absolutely
right?
learned.
It's not like we come out immediately hating other people. If there's somebody who's wronged me, it's not because of, where they come from or who their background is or their genetic upbringing or whatever the heck it may be. It's a story.
It's a story.
It's a story. And when you decide to believe that story, whether you made it up or whether it was given to you, by choosing to believe that, you now limit the amount of communication that you're able to have effectively. Yep. So now you are preventing yourself from finding your best friend, your love of your life, a new connection. The possibilities have now been limited because of a story that you chose to believe. And I don't think it's that cut and dry. There's a lot of things at play here.
Yeah.
But I do believe that you're right, that it's something as awful as like racism comes down to like the story that you believe and whatever.
It's ego.
It 100% is
ego. At the heart of it, it's like, I believe my love is so valuable that if I don't give it to you because of your color, beliefs, whatever it is, whatever reason I choose to not give you my love, I somehow believe that's going to negatively affect you. When in reality, chances are it won't affect you at all. Maybe if you believe the same thing, it does. But in reality, the one that affects is me. I am the one that closes my heart. Like when we love someone, we feel that love. Mm-hmm. When we're grateful to someone, we feel that gratitude. We are the ones that feel good.
In the same way that we feel spite and anger.
Exactly. When we choose to feel anger, we are the ones that are hurt by our anger, whether it affects somebody else or not. That's like we're the ones that are in the fire.
Yeah.
So what do we want to feel? How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel cynical?
No, I want to feel
No, I never wanted
joyous.
to feel that
I
way.
want to feel present. I want to feel like I'm actually able to give meaning to all of the actions that I take. And we were talking a little bit earlier about like kind of autopilot responses where most things done, even making coffee in the morning, it's not my coffee ritual. It's just the thing I need to do so I can be awake for my meeting. Right.
Autopilot.
There's a lot of autopilot happening now. I feel like it's a lot of avoidance. It's not connecting to spirit. It's not connecting to thought. To wrap up this episode, do you have anything that you could kind of speak on when it comes to this growing inability to be present, to be here in this moment, to actually take meaning in the actions that we take instead of just being on autopilot?
Yeah, I do. That what comes to mind is to bring back your little kid. Bring back your inner child. Think about when you didn't know. When you had no idea what a right or wrong answer was, and you just did stuff because you wanted to figure it out. And you were really into it, though. Like you were just, whatever it was, you were experimenting, you were actually present in it, you had no idea what was going to happen, but your heart was fully in it, right? You're just like, I'm all in on this. Little kid excitement, little kid discovery, little kid not knowing. Reconnect with that energy, because that part of you is still alive. And I think even a cynical person can recognize the call of innocence, recognize the call of your child, and like, hey, we all want to protect kids. Sometimes they're annoying. I was an annoying kid for sure, but they're still kids. They're still innocent. We still love them, and they can teach us. That part of you can teach you how to reconnect, how to enjoy things like they're all brand new again. Because when you were a little kid, the world was brand new and shiny and everything was exciting. So I want to invite everybody to come back to that moment before somebody was like, oh, it's not as shiny as you think it is there, little shitter. And just come back to what is exciting, what's connection, what is really going to fire me up. Shake up your routine. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, just see, what is this giving me? What do I believe it's giving me? What's the fulfillment? And how can I make it bigger or deeper or go into it in a way that gives me more permission. Do I want to be grateful? Do I want to be loving? Do I want to be whatever it is that you want to feel? You guys insert the feelings. I'm not going to pretend to know how you want to feel. But allow yourself to do that.
I definitely see more people experiencing forms of burnout.
Yeah.
Or not just autopilot behaviors, but kind of taking on a lot of projects for whatever reason. They may be circumstantial or financial, or they believe that they have to be doing all these different things in order for them to accomplish or get where they need to go. Yes, there's the part of like connecting back to inner child, experiencing the world as if everything was brand new again. Because I'll be honest, after years of social media, porn, and cocaine, I feel like all my receptors are fried. Yeah. So it's very hard. Yeah, it's very hard for me to feel like this. And I've done things so that I can be better about how I view the world, right? And limiting my consumption. But, I tend to falter as any human does. And I'm sure there's people who are way more fried than me. Yeah. Right.
So now connect with the kid, because the kid is always going to give you the honest answer. Now, as the adult, this is the question you need to ask. This is the one question I'll leave with you guys before the mic drop. What do I believe doing this is going to give me? What do I believe this coffee is going to give me right now? What do I believe this joint is going to give me right now? What do I believe this person is going to give me right now? What do I believe this money is going to give me right now? I need you to ask that question and honestly answer the whole story. What do you believe it's going to give you? And then deeper than that is, how is that going to make me feel? Oh, I'll be happy when I have this coffee. I'll be happy when I have this joint.
Happiness based on a condition.
I'll be happy with this person. I'll be happy with this money.
No, humans are amazingly bad at predicting what exactly will make us happy in future tense. Right. Because whatever we're experiencing now in this moment, when we do get the thing that we quote unquote want, the needs are much different. Yes. And a perfect example is like if I'm in a hot ass room and I want a cold ass drink and I leave the house and it's snowing and I get to the lemonade stand, I'm going to be like, it's pretty cold.
Don't want that drink anymore.
Don't think I want a cold drink right now.
Right. That's what happens to people a lot when we chase jobs, houses, cars, money, material possessions, those kind of things. We didn't fully investigate the story on what do we believe it's going to give us. So if you can honestly connect with your inner kid and find out what you believe it's going to give you, you can create that feeling in your imagination right now. And that's all that is really necessary, is for you to create it in your imagination and connect with it. The rest will figure itself out.
Beautiful. There was so much more I would love to talk to you about, but I don't want to make this episode insanely long. Yeah. Let people know how they can find you, because I know that you have retreats happening this year where you do ceremonies and some of them involve plant medicine of the psychedelic nature, but some of them don't. Some of them, there's a multitude of varieties of things that you can attend and do with you. There's also mentoring and coaching. You go ahead and explain what you do. I'm just giving the synopsis, but go for it, buddy. Tell people where they can find you and what you have to offer.
Oh, thank you. I do want to say thanks to everybody that stuck it out with us here. I really, really appreciate you guys. Hope you got some good insight. My main website is www.wildchildmedicines.com. And you can reach me there. You can contact me. You can book an appointment. I always do a free call to connect with people to see if we're a good fit to work together. And we can talk about your beliefs. We can talk about coaching. We can talk about plant medicines. I don't really do psychedelic counseling. I do support, but I do non-psychedelic plant medicines. I'm certified by the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine for internal, external preparation. Love working with people to figure out what's best for them. And I always work with your health team or anybody that you're working with. My whole role is to re-empower you to take your health back and to just ask questions, hold the space and ask the questions that you already know the answers to. I believe everybody already knows how to be the best version of themselves, and I just trust them and empower them to do that. So just find me on wildchildmedicines.com. You can find me on social media on a couple of different places, but that's all through the website. All of my information is there. So been a great time. Thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast.
Thank you for spending over an hour with me just picking each other's brains. This was such a fun episode.
Yep. It's future Joe Rogan episode. You guys will look back at this as a classic, and thank you so much for the opportunity to make the world a better place. I love what you're doing.
Pleasure's all mine, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. If you loved the episode, please consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Music or iTunes. It takes 30 seconds for you, but for us, it helps spread positivity to more people during these chaotic times. It helps build a community, and it makes me smile ear to ear. Speaking of community, we have a Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Carpe Natem. Just answer the 3 questions to get access to some extra motivation and inspiration for your timeline. If you would like to support the podcast, screenshot this episode, share this to your story, and tag me on Instagram at CarpeNatem114. That's going to be my handle across all platforms, including TikTok, if you would like to give me a follow. If you haven't already, please rate us and subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. And lastly, you can find all episodes linked to resources and opportunities for coaching and mentoring from me at CarpeNatem114.com. I cannot thank you enough for spending part of your day with me. You are all rock stars taking the necessary steps to be your best self, willing to do whatever it takes, and ready to grab life by the butt cheeks. So until next time, this is Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso signing off.